Look, memory can change the shape of a room, it can change the color of a car. And memories can be distorted. They're just an interpretation, they're not a record. And they're irrelevant if you have the facts.
Someone wants me. Someone roaming the streets wants me.
Your car's uglier than I am. That didn't come out right.
It's the Al Travis Show. We've got him. John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment. Love having him on. John, thanks for doing it. I appreciate it, especially when you're on tour and you end up doing the show with us as well. Thanks for doing us me the favor. I appreciate you being here.
Great to be with you, Al.
We have not talked. Let me get your 10,000-foot look down. The government was able to, on Monday, Tuesday, they were able to squeak by and spend $66 billion of our dollars by the narrowest of margins. Your thoughts on the budget that got passed?
Well, Minnesota spends way too much money. This is the second largest biennial budget ever passed. It's about $5 billion less than the current budget, but the current budget included a whole lot of what was understood to be one-time spending. Yeah. We just spent the $17.6 billion surplus that we briefly had as a result of all that money the feds were throwing around there during COVID. And so, nothing has really been cut. I mean, there's a couple of things that are cut a little bit. We can talk about that. But the budget that they've just passed is higher than any previous budget other than the one we're in right now that included all that one-time spending. It is 13% higher than the previous record budget. So Minnesota continues to spend way too much money. There is and by the way, the savings, most of the savings they achieved were achieved simply by not considering inflation.
Really? Is that
that's where most of the alleged savings come from. We did manage. It was a close run thing. We did manage to agree to stop providing unlimited free health care for adult illegal aliens. Minor illegal aliens and pregnant women will still continue to get unlimited free health care. There's a pitfall, though, that may be waiting for the state of Minnesota. We may lose $600 million in federal Medicaid funding, which would again throw the budget into into negative territory because of our failure to deal with Medicaid fraud. In Minnesota, it's estimated that Medicaid fraud amounts to something between $1 billion and $2 billion a year. And the big, beautiful bill that they've passed in Washington includes some penalties for states that don't make at least minimal efforts to try to prevent Medicaid fraud. If you're in that category, and Minnesota is in that category, then your federal Medicaid funding is going to get cut. So what are we talking about? We're talking about once a year having the HMOs check to make sure that the checks they are writing to people for Medicaid, number one, are going to people who live in Minnesota. We don't do that.
We don't do that. Wait, that's the simplest step we don't do is mail checks to Minnesotans in Minnesota.
Some of our people in the legislature tried to enact that, but it failed. The Democrats wouldn't vote for it. So we don't check to make sure that people, number one, live in Minnesota. We don't check to make sure that people don't make too much money to qualify for the program. And we don't check to make sure that people haven't died. Okay? We have to, under federal law, if we don't start doing those things, they're going to cut back on our Medicaid funding. And in Minnesota, that would be about a $600 million reduction. So that is a pitfall that
John,
waiting for us.
I don't want you to get a psycho on me by trying to do this exercise, but put yourself on the other side's shoes. Why in God's green earth would we not want to check to see if someone is still alive before we send them money, or that they are Minnesotans still living in Minnesota? How is that something you can't common sense? Why would I don't understand it, John.
Or that they qualify for the program? I don't know. Don't ask me, Al. Ask a Democrat. Get a Democratic House member on your show and ask why none of them were willing to vote for those simple efforts to prevent somewhere between $1 billion and $2 billion a year in Medicaid fraud in Minnesota.
That's just
I can't explain.
It kind of goes like this. I was talking with Senator Howe a second ago. It's the ability for that side to work the gymnastics in their mind. First, Trump's going to get rid of the Department of Education, and we go nuts. You can't do it. Kids are going to, never learn again. The world's going to the heck in a handbasket if we don't have the Department of Education. So why we still have the Department of Education? They come out and say, Minnesota, stop with this DEI stuff, or we're not going to send you the $200-300 million, whatever it is that we send in for this, if you don't stop. And what does Minnesota say? We're not going to listen to you. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. They want a Department of Education, but only one that tells them what they want to hear. And if they don't hear what they want to hear, they say no. What do you do without those $300-400 million?
Yeah, I don't know. So the war over spending continues, Al. The war isn't over. What we've seen here is a truce. The two parties in St. Paul were able to agree on a deal that is not good for Minnesota taxpayers. On the other hand, you have to give the Republicans some credit. They control one half of one chamber. The Democrats control the other half of that chamber, plus the Senate, plus the governor's office. So I guess we know where to point the finger of blame.
This is going to go crazy. If they have to figure out, the paper said $844 million that federal government could be taking away from Minnesota. If that happens, I don't know where this group of people finds $844 million. They wouldn't spend $9 million to go after fraud within the Office of Independent Inspector Generals. They couldn't do $9 million for that. What are they going to do if they have to find $844 million more?
They like fraud, Al. They're in favor of fraud. That's why they wouldn't vote for the Office of the Inspector General. That's why they won't even vote to tell HMOs, hey, before you mail that check, make sure that the recipient hasn't died. If he's died, somebody else is going to cash that check. There's a huge amount of fraud. The amount of, Medicare fraud nationwide is estimated at about $120 billion. Now, there are very different estimates. Some estimated as low as 60 or 70 billion, other estimates as high as 120 billion. That's Medicare fraud. Medicaid fraud is probably more. So we're talking about an enormous amount of money that is being stolen from American taxpayers. And we have some people in Washington and in St. Paul who want to cut down on that fraud. And we have other people who say the more the better.
See, I think that can of worms would be amazing. You get in there, like say, all these checks are going out to possibly dead people. Well, someone's going to the mailbox. Someone's cashing the check, and someone should go to jail if they're doing it. Oh, that would be an interesting lineup.
Well, we can't even send the Feeding Our Future people to jail.
We're going to talk about we're talking about that because you're the head. Your American Experiment's been leading the charge in this. We'll talk about it right after the break. I've got him, John Hinderaker. He's talking about we've got 72 of what the federal government seems to think are 200 Minnesotans that were stealing from us with Feeding Our Futures, but they're just too darn busy, don't have enough manpower to go get the other 100 and what would that be, 28 of them. We'll talk about that next on the Al Travis Show.
All the special interests are represented in St. Paul, but who speaks for you? Center of the American Experiment does. Our policy fellows dig into the tough issues that matter to you and offer common sense solutions on education, taxes, crime, and energy. American Experiment is the trusted, nonpartisan voice of Minnesotans like you. We are working every day to make Minnesota a better, safer, more prosperous place. We are American Experiment. Go to americanexperiment.org to learn more.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
easily offended? The Al Travis Show is not for you. The Al Travis Show. All sides are welcome.
We've got him, John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment. John, here's the story today. Federal prosecutors come out and say, yeah, we've gotten 72 of these Feeding Our Futures knuckleheads here in Minnesota so far. We think there are as many as 200, but we do not have the manpower to keep this up. Doing the math, 138, 28 of them will then get by scot-free. Roughly, they got a third of the bad guys. Now, where's Keith Ellison? Fed government can't do this all themselves. Where's Keith and his team? And I don't care if it takes 3, 4, 10 years to get them all. Do we just give up after a year and a half? Got the big dogs. Let's let the others live. This doesn't sound right.
Well, let's just back up for a moment. Now, there have been some new Feeding Our Future indictments. First of all, we've updated the scandal tracker at AmericanExperiment.org to reflect
661, by the way. Goodness gracious.
661 million during the Walz administration only. And now the Feeding Our Future number is up to about 300 million in terms of what's been indicted. Now, the feds have said all along, Andy Luger said several years ago that he thinks the total amount stolen was about $500 million.
That's just correct.
So with these new indictments, the feds are now prosecuting the theft of about 300 million, about 60% of what was stolen. So what's going on there, as you say, that's a minority of the people that were involved in the fraud. And what's going on is if you stole $2 million, $3 million, they're prosecuting you. But if you only stole $200,000, $300,000, they're not getting to you. So a whole bunch of people are getting away with thefts in that range, 100,000, 200, 300, 400,000.
But when you do that, then you incentivize them to find the next thing, right? Let's go get the next thing. I liken it to, if you've been watching the news, you can protest whatever you want in California, but at some point they're going by somebody's store, busting in, everybody ransacks the place and runs out because the math says they can't catch us all, people. And that's what we're doing here in Minnesota. And these are, I'm sorry, $100,000 theft sure seems like a lot when we're talking about what we could feed our children. I don't like this, and at the same time, let me throw this back at you. Governor Walz literally today is going to be in front of the House Oversight Committee about being sanctuary state. Now, he says, we're not a state. We have our biggest cities are sanctuary cities, but he's going to be raked over the coals. This is a horrible look for Minnesota right now. And the KSTP poll comes out, sir, and it says that 58% of Minnesota thinks Governor Walz is doing a great job.
Yeah, so I want to go back for a moment, though, Alex. I didn't actually answer your question. You said, what about Keith Ellison? I mean, if the feds don't have manpower because there's just too many hundreds of these fraudsters, why doesn't Keith Ellison do something? Well, Keith Ellison is on tape. We broke this story a month or two ago.
You did.
Keith Ellison is on tape meeting with Feeding Our Future people and saying he's on their side. He's going to intervene to try to prevent the stream of money from being cut off. So I don't think we should be looking to Keith Ellison for law enforcement.
But, okay, you laugh at it, but here's what gets me is, so before the COVID thing started, schools fed people. I mean, I don't know how many houses were out, places were out there just doing that. All of a sudden they say there's money, and at least 200, I mean, how many, some people might have did it legit, at least 200 entities pop up feeding children like this and that, and we believe they're all kosher? Somebody in Minnesota had to say, what are you talking about?
Yeah, well, the number of children allegedly being fed, if you compare it to the number of children in Minnesota, it wouldn't have been too hard to figure out. But again, Al, it's easy to be outraged, but you just have to understand that there are significant, powerful political forces that are not opposed to fraud. They are in favor of fraud because they believe that the vast majority of the fraud is going to their people.
See, okay. And I the more and more we do this, more and more I have to fall on your side and say, I think you are correct.
Hey, something we can't talk about the tour. We got to talk about
that's what something we can do about it with the last 3.5 minutes here, my friend, is if this budget they get another special session, there's all this cutting. I hope some lawmakers go to your Minnesota Doge, cut the waste, save the budget meetings, which start today and they run across the state. Get legislators there so you can say, we can do this. You start today in Owatonna at 11:30, Lakeville at 5 o'clock tonight. The kickstart of this whole campaign. Tell us what you do and how it's going to work and what people got to do to get involved.
So the title of this year's summer tour is Minnesota Doge, Cut the Waste, Save the Budget. Currently, as a result of this latest budget deal, we still have a $2 billion structural deficit. We're still making up for that by
Every year.
spending the last of the federal COVID money. So what we have done is we have proposed spending cuts that would get rid of that entire $2 billion structural deficit and also will enable $2 billion in further reduced spending that will allow tax cuts. Now, that's nowhere near enough. We've got, what, a $66 billion budget for the biennium, so $2 billion in tax cuts, obviously very small. We need to do a lot more. But it's a start, and it's a heck of a lot better than is currently being done on Minnesota's budget. So if you want to know how we can, in fact, make ourselves solvent as a state for a change and cut spending enough that we can at least begin moving taxes in the right direction, which is down rather than up, go to go to AmericanExperiment.org and click on the events tab at the top, and you'll see all these events for the summer tour. There's 20 or so of them, so we're going to be coming to a location near you. You just click on the link, and it'll take you to a place where you can sign up for the events.
And so folks know there's a nominal fee. I want to say $5, $10, $15, something like that, because there are hors d'oeuvres served at a lot of these. Today's Owatonna, and some will miss this by the time this plays. Lakeville tonight. I just want to throw some others out if you're interested around this area. Mankato, Hutchinson, Chaska, Newport, Vadnais Heights, Brainerd, Ottertail, Duluth, Bemidji, St. Cloud, Maple Grove, Marshall, Wilmer, Rochester. You can get to one of these. You're within miles of one of these places. You should get there. Go to the American Experiment, AmericanExperiment.org. Go to the events page. Can you throw me real quick? What's the Stars and Stripes and Home Runs rooftop summer party? I don't think I've heard of this. 1 minute to go.
Well, we've got the Budweiser Roof on July 5th. So all donors to American Experiment are going to be invited. And again, there's a little bit of a charge for that, but we've got the Budweiser Roof, and we're going to have a whole bunch of Minnesotans there cheering on the Minnesota Twins on July 5th.
Fantastic. So there's all kinds of stuff. That events page is stacked. Go there and take a look. John, someone wants to sign up, help out, AmericanExperiment.org. There's a donation page. How do I become a member?
If you go to AmericanExperiment.org, you'll see a big red button on the upper right-hand corner of the page that says Donate. You can't miss it. If you click on that button, you can put a donation on your credit card, or you can send a check. That works as well to our address, which you will see there. And we encourage everyone to support American Experiment.
I appreciate you, my friend. We'll see you again next week. He is John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment.
All the special interests are represented in St. Paul, but who speaks